Chael, when it was over, I just kept saying, oh my God, Wyatt Hendrickson just beat Gable Steveson. Like, I was saying like, oh my God, Wyatt Hendrickson just beat Gable Steveson. And I was standing up next to the commentary table and with my hands on my head like this, Chael. It was the most shocking scene I have ever seen in a wrestling setting. There's never been nothing like it. It was almost speechless. The setting was, it was like a Hollywood story. It was crazy. Did you watch it live, Chael?
Daniel, first off, I thought that you were awesome. I thought that you and Jordan Burroughs were awesome. There was an announcer, and it was way back about 1996. Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson. And I remember the guy calling play-by-play. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. And he said, this is the most incredible thing I've been privileged to witness. And it was such a powerful statement. It was almost more powerful than the fight. That's basically what you were saying. Jordan Burroughs said nothing. Jordan Burroughs got an Olympic gold medal. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. Listen, Gable Steveson won the Olympic Games. He's been in the NFL. He's been in the WWE. I'm just saying, apparently, winning the NCAA tournament is harder than all of those things, and I can't even put the magnitude. I could only tell our fight fans I'd have to make something up. It'd be like, it's bigger in many ways than when Matt Serra beat GSP.
Yeah,
I would have to fill in the blank. Some 55-pounder gets the jump on Khabib.
Dude,
I got to make something up because I've never seen anything as surprising as this.
It was that big a deal. Not only because he beat the Olympic champion, right? But because they had wrestled once and Gable teched him in the second period. He beat him in less than 5 minutes. So they had wrestled before. Gable had been the Olympic champ. Gable hasn't been touched in years in terms of wrestling, and he got beat. So put it in these terms. Do you remember watching Khabib beat Michael Johnson and telling him, brother, you have to give up. Please, I deserve a title shot. It's over. Just absolute dominance. Beating him up, toying with him essentially. That would be like Michael Johnson coming back a few years later and beating Khabib Nurmagomedov. Seriously.
Yes.
That would be the equivalent of that after what you saw. And Khabib had gotten better, and he still lost to that guy, Michael Johnson, who had went to work and got better. You know, sitting in that NCAA wrestling tournament, JLP, it's one of my favorite things to do. But when I saw, it was so crazy. When you're a heavyweight, right, your body can't shift too much in one direction, Chael. If they shift you, you're probably going to fall. So when Wyatt got to the leg, and Gable went to the chest, he grabbed him and he was sprawling. I said, Gable, oh, he's fine. Jordan goes, oh my God, he got to the leg this time. And I go, but Gable's finally sliding off the position like he's sprawling. But then Hendrickson did this like he turned the corner, Chael. If you're a heavyweight and you start to turn the corner, when Wyatt hit the corner and Gable kind of like shifted, as a heavyweight, when you shift, in most instances, that tree gonna tip. So when he hit that corner the second time and he hit the double leg, I said, oh my God. I said, oh my God. The Olympic champion is going to lose. And Chael, when he got up with like 10 seconds left, and then when he fell back down to the ground, my jaw hit the floor. I had never been more surprised.
That was the psychological math. Psychologically, Gable standing up, he's fighting those hands, and he's doing the math. He's thinking, man, if I get away, I still got a tie. I got 8 seconds. I got to go into overtime. How bad do I want this? I mean, every athlete has to deal with that. But that was his moment. Can I tell you something? I got so many tweets. I got so many tell Daniel this. Compliments on your performance. There's something going viral, though. It's about Lucas Bird, our new national champion.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's up with this? They're calling him a short king.
Yeah.
So he goes 5'5". His girlfriend's 6'3". Apparently, this is a thing on the internet. Short kings. I got told to ask you about it. It's the first I've heard.
Ellie, his girlfriend Ellie is a volleyball player at Illinois. Lucas loves this girl so much, but he runs into her arms after the match, and she's like hugging him. But you know what's the beautiful thing about Lucas and Ellie? Chael, they play into it. They ham it up in that regard. Like, you'll go to TikTok or something, she's carrying him. She's picking him up. She's holding him, flipping him around. It's like the best thing in the world. But he's the toughest dude. He's so strong. He's so physical. He's so gritty. And yes, after the match, I go, look, he's going to run over and hug his girlfriend. She's 6'3". And it's Ellie and Lucas, and they're hugging. But yes, they say the #1 short king in the world now is my main man, Lucas Bird, he's got some swagger, and he looks like Harry Potter. You see him with his glasses?
Daniel, can I give you one piece of inside scoop? So, Carter Starace just became the first ever 5-time NCAA champion, which likely is not to happen. Just to have the opportunity, we had to have a world pandemic in the COVID year. Fast forward, Carter Starace quietly has been calling Teddy Atlas. And Teddy Atlas told him straight up, I'm not training, guys. I appreciate it. It's not what I'm doing. Carter called him back. Carlo called him back again. He called him back a 4th time. Then he followed up with text messages to the point that Teddy Atlas is starting to give a look at it. He's starting to say, hey, wait a minute. If there's a young man that wants to do this bad, that I keep telling him no, and he keeps finding ways to reach out to me, and I'm only foreshadowing for you. Could you imagine a year, 2 years, Carter Starace teamed up with Teddy Atlas? Are you telling me that wouldn't be one of the more exciting stories in MMA?
It would be exciting, and guess what? It would work. If he can get Teddy Atlas to train him boxing, and then he's got his wrestling foundation, and these guys at Penn State are already doing jiu-jitsu. Hey, Nolf does jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
We saw Greg Kirkvalik going to Craig Jones Invitational. They're already doing jiu-jitsu out there. Nickel has a American top team in State College. Carter Starace with all of that, if he added Teddy Atlas with his wrestling background, Carter Starace would be the absolute man, and he would be the man right away. Now, Chael, right before the finals, I called you, and I said, Chael, what do you do in terms of bout order? Do we have to go up the bout order? And you said, nah, I would end with Gable. And I'm starting with Carter trying to be 5-time. Right, you start with the big story, you end with the big story. And luckily we did, because the matches through the middle weren't very good. Like, if we're being honest about wrestling, it's something we have to change. It wasn't very good through the middle. So starting with that big moment with Carter was awesome. And then obviously the Gable Steveson moment to end the night was the biggest moment that we've seen in wrestling history. I mean, bro, for Wyatt Hendrickson, who is in the Air Force, he goes over and he does this to he salutes Donald Trump, who's in there. Dude, it was never could be anything like that. But lost in all this, right? Lost in all the hoopla and how much people are loving it was the fact that Gable Steveson handled this as good as any champion I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, he gets up, he goes to Brandon Eggum, who's heartbroken, and he does this. He goes, I'm sorry. He does, I'm sorry to Brandon Eggum. Gets on the award stand, claps for Wyatt Hendrickson, waves to the crowd. He handles this, Chael, as good as any champion that got beat in that situation that I've ever seen. So how important was it for not only you and I to see that, but for kids who are watching their hero get beaten in that big moment to see how he handled it as a champion and went out there and took his loss on the nose like that?
Daniel, it was the first thing I thought. Like, when I give the pitch to parents as to why you would get a kid into martial arts or why you would get a kid into wrestling, it's largely to learn how to lose. You have to know how to lose if you're going to be a gentleman, if you're going to be a winner, if you're going to do anything. I couldn't believe how well Gable took that. I mean, it's the biggest upset wrestling had had, to the point that Jordan Burroughs was speechless and you didn't fully know what to say. None of us could comprehend what we were seeing. Gable stood up and made sure that Wyatt had his... Wyatt was busy celebrating, and Gable's got a handout waiting for him right in the chest. It truly was sportsmanship personified. You got to understand, Gable didn't have to come back. There's never been anybody that's been guaranteed an NCAA championship, but in my lifetime, there's been one guy who I did expect, I just assumed would win it. It happens to be Gable, and it wasn't just this year. It was the other times he's entered as well. I never thought anybody could stop him. To watch what he did and to watch what Wyatt, and to know that backstory. Don't forget about the semifinals the night before. Kirk Levine technical fauled Wyatt 1 year ago. In 12 months, he made up 19 points. There's no sport anywhere that I can tell you in the last 12 months I've seen that.
I've already gotten calls from companies saying, hey, is Wyatt Hendrickson available for this, and this? This kid's life is going to change like nothing he could ever have imagined. It's crazy. But the biggest moment that I've ever seen, man, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I believe that it was the biggest upset of all time. I know Dan Gable losing to Larry Owens was huge, Spencer Lee and all those guys, but this was the biggest one because of who Gable is and the dominance he has shown. But when we speak about Gable Steveson, for so long people have talked about what's next for him. Is MMA next for Gable Steveson? And I still don't believe that nothing changes in regards to him in that journey. Does Gable Steveson now, Chael, go into mixed martial arts now? Or does he kind of dabble into mixed martial arts while trying to hang around wrestling and kind of write that? Because let's call a spade a spade. I'll be honest with you. I love Wyatt Hendrickson. I love what David Taylor and the Cowboys did last weekend. We seem to be on our way back up. But if you match them dudes up 6 times, 10 times, you're probably going about 8 or 9 times in the other direction, right? It's like the NCAA basketball tournament. You only got to win one game. And Wyatt won the biggest one. But does Gable need to go get one over Wyatt to kind of try to erase that memory? Or is that ship past now? Does he need to just go into MMA right now?
I can only tell you history. It's the trajectory to the future. But when Gable dropped the match to Anthony Cesar, Gable showed up to the U.S. Open looking to get that back. Yeah. Cesar, just to remind you, he ended up going down with a shoulder injury. We never saw that rematch. But I was wondering the same thing. Gable was in the corner of Jon Jones for Jon's last fight. Jon has been seen in Minnesota sitting front row supporting Gable for duels. It is very interesting. I mean, how people handle a loss. Generally speaking, a guy in Gable's situation goes up. Generally, a loss turns into a bounce. All the great stories, even like you mentioned, Dan Gable himself, but he went on to coach all those championships and to win the Olympic Games in 72, and that probably didn't happen, and that drive probably didn't happen had he not lost that match to Larry Owens. But everybody's different, Daniel. I feel as though I'm not sure that Gable would have lost a 6-minute match. He needed all 7 minutes. I felt like he got a little bit tired. I felt like he had a choice, and he realized I haven't put my work in. He hit the scale 20 pounds heavier than he was the last time he was at the NCAA tournament, and you could argue that it was muscle. Maybe it was. 20 pounds is 20 pounds. You're either burning those calories or you're not. I'm just bringing it to your attention because Gable is man enough to handle this. Gable also happens to be a fan of our show. He watches it. I'm trying to give him a shout out in his support. I'm trying to lift him when he's down. But in all fairness, we've only seen him in this spot one other time, and he did rebound to become an Olympic champion.
He did. So yeah, it was good. So congratulations to Wyatt Hendrickson and all the NCAA champions. Gable Steveson for his being a gentleman in a tough situation.
Did you make up Short Kings? Is Short Kings yours? Did you steal this and you're getting credit for it?
I never knew what that was, Chael. I had no idea what it was, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, so all the NCAA champs, Penn State, Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oh, Chael, before we go, there was a kid named Levi Hopkins. Yeah. He had a bloody nose, Chael, and it kind of went viral.
And a bloody face.
He had a bloody face.
They wrapped his whole damn face.
They wrapped his face, Chael. Why do they do that? Why do we as wrestlers do that? Why when we can't stop a bloody nose, do we just wrap a dude's face? They tell you, hey, every time I see a dude breathing out of his mouth in the octagon, I'm like, oh, he's tired because he's breathing out of his mouth. What are you supposed to do? What was Levi supposed to do if he can't breathe out of his nose? He got it wrapped.
Just to tell you the history on this, there used to be an option. It was the same as the practice room. If a dude bled a little bit, you say, hey, are you okay? And he said, yeah, let's keep going. You just kept going. Somewhere around the year 2001, if I remember correctly, they made a rule called blood time. And then they over time made a rule saying for blood time, you have a total, wherever you take it, you have a total of 5 minutes to make it stop. Then they came up with a rule in 2017 that said absolutely no blood. If there's any blood, this match is stopped. But they didn't know who to award the winner. Was it the bleeder? Was it the non-bleeder? They didn't know what to do. So to comply with their own rule to stop the blood, they're now wrapping a guy's entire face. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, it's bad enough to be wrestling. You got your twig and berries and this short little singlet. I mean, it's not an easy thing to tell a kid to come out for wrestling and look what you got to wear in front of the whole school. And they're going to wrap the poor guy's face up. If I may be wordy, I was in Colby Covington's corner for his last fight. And I was going to stop this fight. And I got a lot of resistance from people when I said that. His eyelid was hanging down. You only have a couple of things that you deserve in a cage fight in front of the world. but the right to see the guy happens to be
yes.
one of those things. And when I'm watching this poor kid, I'm thinking, he's only got 2 orifices to breathe from. You can't wrap his face. You just can't do that.
No, you can't. You can't wrap a guy's face, dude. You can't wrap his face and then send him back out there to wrestle. But we do it all the time. One of my greatest things about the NCAA tournament show, my favorite, is by the end of it, the black eyes and the tape around the head. But now they're wrapping faces. I'm just happy that my days in NCAA wrestling is over because I could not do it. And I don't care how great you are. We saw greatness in Philadelphia. That was awesome. But speaking of Philadelphia, Chael, and I was going to make it a point to give him a shout out on the broadcast, but then things started moving so fast. Sean Brady is from Philadelphia, but he traveled across the world to fight Leon Edwards in what was his highest profile fight to date. Because sure, he fought Bilal Muhammad, but that was on a pay-per-view, but it was either an undercard or early in the pay-per-view. He was a main event. He was in London against the former champion. And boy, did he dominate Leon Edwards. Were you surprised at how much or how able he was to dominate Edwards in the way that we thought that nobody really could dominate him? That the Bilal Muhammad fight, where he looked like he couldn't really defend, was due to the time, up at 5 a.m. in the morning fighting, all that. Were you surprised at how able he was to dominate Leon Edwards in that way?
Daniel, I have never in my career complimented publicly Leon Edwards. And it's not personal. It's purely a coincidence, just the way that things unfold. But I'm always watching him, and this wasn't any different. I had a feel going into this match. I had a feel from his media. It was too much. I had a feel when he had lost that match to Bilal, when he lost the world championship, when he did that on home soil. There's no home court advantage in MMA. It is a home court disadvantage. Your media goes up. Every friend that's ever gotten your phone number is asking you for tickets. I mean, anything that you can think of, everybody that you've told at all the local pubs what a badass you are, you're going to have to go out and prove it half naked in front of the world. It is a massive disadvantage. I did feel leading into the match, first off, Brady is a harder fight than people are aware. And the last guy that all 756 guys under contract, the number one guy that they do not want to fight is somebody that they know is better than the audience is aware. And that's exactly where Leon found himself. And if he could have come down the card, if he could have come into 15 minutes, if he could have come into a co-main event, I would have felt better about it. But I started to see in the media, I started to see these tea leaves. I started to see Leon with so much to lose and so little to gain, at least perception-wise. But I know the mind of a fighter. I didn't like the spot for him. I think the result showed it. I don't think Leon's any worse than he was 2 years ago. Brady happens to be that good, and perception's just not. There's a reason the young man is 18-1, and that one and only time he tasted defeat was to the current world champion.
You know, Chael, that's my point.
What an analysis. What an incredible analysis.
It was beautiful.
Sometimes, do you ever just sit back and thank God in heaven above that you have access to my dimension? Do you ever think that? What a brilliant analysis I just gave.
I do, Chael, and then it almost literally writes my story to follow, because he did look dominant, right? And the reason that you say he doesn't get the credit he deserves and the general public doesn't know that he's as good as he is because of one match. And honestly, Chael, it was kind of what do you call it whenever it was like, it's not par for the course. It's not normal. It's out of the ordinary. He doesn't get the credit he deserves because Bilal had an out of the ordinary performance. Seriously, what Bilal Muhammad did to Sean Brady is not par for the course. That is not how he fights. But remember the story going into that fight. Bilal had been training with Khabib. They were in Abu Dhabi. Bilal finishes him. Everybody goes, well, this kid must not be that good. But when he lost the fight, he never went down. Referee stopped the fight. He jumped in. Sean Brady felt like the referee stopped the fight too early. Sean Brady comes back and starts dominating again. He got beat in a situation that is not common for the guy beating him. Sure, Bilal's the champion now. But watching Bilal become champion, normally looks like Bilal beating Leon Edwards or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and those guys with his pace and his pressure. So when you get to Sean Brady and you put him in there with other people, that is what he looks like when he doesn't kind of get overwhelmed as he did in that fight. With Leon Edwards, he was able to beat him in a way similar to Bilal Muhammad, just better. He actually beat him better than Bilal Muhammad did and was willing to say that. There's nothing more important than a fighter's ability to get up after getting knocked down. He got knocked down in the biggest spot of his entire career. And all he has done is truly put himself right back into an elite position in his weight class. I think this kid is good. I think that his grappling, I think his physical ability, he's strong, he's in great shape, is going to be a problem for most. But as with most situations like this, Chael, where you got the old guy and you got the young guy. I'm not calling Leon an old guy, but I'm talking about the guy that we've known for a long time. The story is that guy. Is he done? Everybody will ask, is he done? Because now we have seen 2 fights in a row where a specific game plan can work against Leon Edwards. Not just a wrestler, a pressure wrestler gives him problems. Can Leon Edwards bounce back from this, or do you think the days of a championship is over for Rocky?
Darren Till comes to mind. There's a young man, got his name out there because Ronda Rousey was managing him, named Shabazian. But I bring them up because of exactly what you said about Leon. They're really not losing fights as it appears. They're losing a position, but it keeps being the same position. So when your opponents can look at that and they can sit down with their trainers and they can start to find out what you refer to as a game plan, it's very real. And to take that back once the mask is off, it's tough. We all walk around with the same secret. We all walk around as athletes, and we know where we don't want to be. We know specifically what this guy is going to be better than us. And then we wonder. We go to the press and the media, and we get on the scale, and then we face off, wondering the whole time, did he find it? Does he know my secret? Did he do enough homework? Did one of my teammates leak? Did he watch enough tape on me? It's one of those situations where I also don't feel that Leon is sliding. I really don't feel like Leon is worse. I feel like a little bit of the mask came off. I feel like he's getting beat in one position on his feet, one position on the mat. But when you've got elite level grapplers that are studying that and they can go out and they can mimic one another, you got to solve that problem. Same game that everybody has to play, but now that shoe's on Leon's foot.
He executed the game plan perfectly and then submits him with a mounted guillotine. Dude, to make a champion, a former champion, tap like that, that's insane. Last time Leon Edwards struggled with the wrestling, it was when he fought Kamaru Usman the first time. For 2 years, he came back and forth to AKA. I wonder what he's going to do now, right? If he has any idea or any goals of becoming the champ again, what's he going to do now to try to change the way things are playing out? It's crazy.
Sure, Daniel, and don't forget, I mean, that goes both ways. Like Leon's gonna have to resurrect his career, but there is a story of a career. You go on the regional scene, you bust into the UFC, and you try to make it to television. You try to make it to a main event. Less than 1% of the entire roster ever gets a world title fight. But then you put everything in reverse. You go from world champion to main event. You start working your way down the roster, and the next thing you know, you're another bum in the shower. I mean, that's just the business that we sign up for. The real question, I think, is what do you do with Brady? Kid, he's the main event. What do you do next? The word's promotion. It's not a demotion. So where do you take a guy that's winning in a main event? The only place you can take him is to a world title. I mean, it's a very interesting situation. You want to put him in more main events. You want to start to bring him over to pay-per-view. He's not going to get called out. Nobody's going to come out and challenge him. I mean, it's one of these spots, and I do feel like Brady really played his cards very well. I felt like him grabbing the microphone and staying heel while in England was a very smart thing to do. Yeah. You and I have been doing this show for a meaningful period of time. We've won awards for this show. We've never said his name before, and now he's at the top of the show. I mean, not for nothing. You're talking the world of a promotion. There's not a lot you can do with this guy that isn't very beautiful.
Hey, Chael. That was one of your greatest analysis points there.
I am blown away with myself.
You're doing really good.
Am I having a good day or what?
I'm like, wipe my eyes. Hey, has anybody seen Chael? Is that Chael over there? Because Chael, wow.
Can I level with you about something? I don't want to talk about UFC. I just know that Air is going to get pissed, and I'm a little worried about getting fired. I want to talk about the NCAA tournament because I feel, hey, Dean Hamady might have been the best guy in the building.
Yeah,
There's only 3 stories in the history of wrestling. You got Pat Smith winning 4 titles. You got Cael Sanderson going undefeated. And now you've got Carter Starace. That's the real truth in all of wrestling. We can act like it was a big deal when Larry Owens and Dan Gable. Guess what? I can look out my window and see Larry Owens' house, and that is not a joke. His wife was my 4th grade teacher, and she was awesome. But those dudes were wearing pantyhose and trading fireman's carriers. We didn't see the match. We got told about the match by somebody somewhere. There is 3 stories in the history of wrestling, and now one of them, Carter Starace, is trying to team up with Teddy Atlas. You might get Teddy Atlas in the corner of a UFC. You might get Cael Sanderson in the corner. You might get Teddy and Cael in the same corner. That, in my opinion, is the hottest story going around right now.
It is, Jill. It is. But, you know, you're right. We don't want to get it. We don't want to get it. But
does Air have that power? Can she actually?
You don't want to make a lady mad. You really don't. You don't.
Who wants to find out?
Especially not a black woman. But Chael, listen, that's one of those times where you kind of just go slow back out of the conversation. You know how you do it so well. When I say black, you go, okay, I'm out.
I wasn't totally comfortable when I said short king. I'm definitely not touching black woman. I'm out.
Chael.
I'm good, but I'm not. Right, everybody's got a limit.
Everybody's got a limit. But that's the analysis point where, hey, you always see that guy, they pass each other. As Brady's doing this, Leon's doing that. Taylor's old as time, man, where they pass. You know who's another guy that's looking to pass that former champion? But he can't pass him on the way up. He's actually got to go through him. Tom Aspinall has to go through Jon Jones, right? There is nobody else beating Jon Jones. Jon Jones can fight the rest of these guys for another 2 to 3 years and still beat them. The one that people worry about is Tom Aspinall. But they can't do this like the rest of the older champions. Aspinall's doing everything in his power, Chael. He showed up the other day with a duck. He's wearing, plus he's like, English people, right? They get dressed up, but they dress a little different. He was wearing a suit, but they're like English people wear like a suit. The pants is a different color than the jacket. Like, he looked like...
What happened with the duck? I don't know the duck story.
He had a duck. He was holding a plastic duck while wearing a suit of a gentleman of our age, right? Young dudes got to wear suits that are the same color. Like, we could pull off the different two-tone suit. Now, Tom Aspinall's holding that duck in his hand, dressed like that. Do you like that? That now he's still searching for that thing that's going to piss Jon Jones off.
I like a duck. I like that you said a suit of a man our age. Can I tell you can I tell you my Jon Jones story?
Yeah.
So I'm in Newark. I'm getting ready to fight Jon Jones. And, you know, Newark's East Coast time, so we don't hit the ring till like midnight. So it's about 10 o'clock, and I just got my hands wrapped. Craig Borsari comes to the locker room, and he gets me. He singles me out and says, hey, Dana wants to talk to you. I, at this point in my career, have never dealt with anyone at the level of Craig Borsari. He came and got me personally and takes me to Dana's green room. Dana says, we're doing this thing. We're doing this video. And there's this new channel called Fox Sports 1. So after you win tonight, I need you to look at the camera and I need you to hold up the number 1. Dan, I swear to God, I looked behind me. He looked at me. He said, after you win tonight. I thought, hey, man, I'm fighting Jon. I looked around. Do you know who you? And I realized, he's telling both of us to make sure he gets the shot. But it was one of these moments that I took my shots at Jon in the media too. You want to wear a suit and you want to hold up a duck? I'm into the whole thing. But there is a moment after all that fun is done, they are going to come to your locker room and you are going to walk to the cage to face Jon Jones. Yep. And for right now, I will leave it at that. But I will tell you, when that moment comes, things get real fast.
You know what's the craziest thing about it? Like, I had, I'll be honest with you, Chael, I thought I was going to win both times. And I thought I was going to win. I was certain of it. I thought I was going to win more the second time after fighting him. But again, I'm also just a psychopath in regards of who I think I am. But here's the deal. You're in there fighting Jon Jones, and that's when you go, well, he's a little bit different than any other human being I've ever fought. Like, the rest of the guys are pretty good. They're fast, they hit hard, and they may hit harder than him, but he doesn't really veer off of what he's trying to do. He's very mean. He's durable. He's hard to fight. And Tom Aspinall is going to find that out, right? So yes, Chael, I love the duck. I love all the fun. I love all that. But at the end of the day, when you get in there with that dude, don't start rethinking things. Because if you start rethinking things in there with that dude, he gonna run right through you. You cannot start going, hey man, it's a little harder than I thought. Because that dude, he gonna put it on you. He gonna put it on you. But I don't believe Aspinall feels that way. I believe Aspinall believes, hey, you know what's the craziest thing about being Tom Aspinall and being young and winning is like the fans and the world can really make you go, I am going to get this dude. And then you're in there and you start losing and you're like, God dang it, how am I losing? How does he deal with that if that starts to show itself in the fight or a long fight? Because it's going to be hard to get Jon Jones out of there in a minute. Like he's got
and by the way, I got to tell you, I also thought that you were going to beat Jon Jones. but I'll just share with you, I'm not saying that Tom's not. I mean, this is what legends are made of. Sometimes you got to go out there and you got to call your shot. I remember it was Klitschko was going around for years, and he nicknamed himself so that the announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr., would have to say, the man that Evander Holyfield refuses to fight. Like everybody got a nickname. So that's what he would nickname himself, just so that got said to the world. I mean, that took years before Evander Holyfield actually got in the ring and did the fight. So, I mean, some guys deal with this stuff very well, and some guys don't. But to act like, I was in Brazil one time, and I had a gun pulled on me. Now, it turned out it was a misinterpretation, and there wasn't a gun. But I thought there was a gun. And I will just tell you, whatever bravado you think that you have or that you envision that you will have in said situation, when a gun comes out, it's very different. And whatever bravado you think you have, when that referee turns to you and says, are you ready? And you got Jon Jones standing 26 feet across from you. I'm just sharing with you. It changes. I was so juiced up. I looked across the ring and thought, damn, that guy looks big. I remember thinking that. I remember having records in the way. I mean, there's some things that you know how much you can lift. I locked up with that guy. It was like a Volvo and a Mack truck. And I'm only sharing with you, like, there is a big question. Can Jon deal with somebody bigger? Jon, in large part, is the one putting Tom over. Jon refusing the fighter, saying, I need 6 months for it. Not for nothing. On the playground, under playground rules, he's conceding a little bit to Tom. But what are we supposed to make of that? Jon's a gamesman too. We act like he's not, but he is. He knows the business.
He knows business. Chael, before we, real quick, before we leave today, I want to honor the great George Foreman. We lost a great champion last week in George Foreman. Olympic champion, boxing world champion, oldest boxing heavyweight world champion of all time. When you think of George Foreman, what are your memories of the great George Foreman? Outside of the grill, right? Because there's a person that truly had a second act that was insane. But what do you think of when you think of George Foreman?
Only good things. And I got to tell you, George was just a little bit before my time. When he came out in my time, when I was actually watching fights and not just reading about him, that was like the Michael Moore time. And I remember George going on Letterman, and he was talking about, I was setting him up the whole time, and pow. And I remember sitting at home, and I was around the 6th or 7th grade, and I remember thinking, just tell the truth. Say you threw a punch and it just happened to connect. Don't act like you went out there and got beat up for 10 rounds as some type of a rope-a-dope strategy. But many guys say that's exactly what George did. In fact, he's the one where the phrase rope-a-dope was coined. It was him versus Ali. Yep. And so many people say, including Mike Tyson, and they never sparred, they never felt each other the way they both told the story. But they say that George Foreman is the hardest puncher in the history of boxing. And when the fellow fighters speak of you that way, particularly fighters in different eras, when Ali says you're the hardest puncher and Mike Tyson says you're the hardest puncher, I'm staring at a 2-time world champion right now, giving his respects to George Foreman. So I would say whatever thoughts I have about George are very strong, and he certainly will be missed.
Jim Lampley said in their pre-fighter meeting before Michael Moore, he goes, there's going to be a time in the 10th round where he's going to stand in front of me and let me knock him out. That's what he said. Jim goes, George, how you gonna do this? And he said, George said, there's gonna be a time where he stands in front of me and he's gonna let me knock him out. And he said, when it happened, he goes, exactly like he said it was going to happen. And Chael, when I was in high school, my freshman year, my shop teacher, whenever he didn't want to take us into the shop, he would put that fight. You know how they wheel those TVs in on that dang cart? He would put that fight on the tape, and we would watch George Foreman beat Michael Moore. Because to that man, he was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. He's an older gentleman who saw George Foreman get beat by Muhammad Ali in that way. So when we watched the movie, he would show us George Foreman beating Michael Moore. So I had an appreciation for George even earlier because all my uncles are massive boxing fans. So we would watch it. But to see that as a high school kid was truly amazing. And then for my life to come full circle, I had a meeting once with George and all of his business partners because we were talking about doing a television show together in Los Angeles. It never came to be, but we got to sit for hours. And then I got to go to Houston, Chael, to train at the youth center. And for me, that was like going to Disneyland for any child. George Foreman took me into that same gym that he would train in. He wrapped my hands, Chael.
No way.
I swear to God, Chael, he wrapped my hands. He watched me spar with one of his athletes. He showed me how to hit the heavy bag. He told me that I was hitting the heavy bag wrong my entire career. Because you know, we're hitting the heavy bag, we're like, boom, 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 hit. Yeah. George is like, ooh, ooh, ooh. He's like, the bag's there to be hit, Daniel. He's like, boom, boom. It was the craziest thing. And you know, he had a classic car. He loved classic cars. George had car garages with many, many old school vehicles. One was Joe Frazier, the name of the gym. It was a picture of Big Joe, Smoking Joe on the outside of the garage. One was Ali, and it was a picture of Muhammad Ali on the front of the garage. And he had all these classic cars, dude. He was just the best, man. And it had made me sad that he passed, but all my memories of George Foreman are just A+. Just what a wonderful, beautiful human being.
That's an incredible story, and I'm very jealous. By the way, I don't know that we've even started the show. May I do this just in case they need this in the edit?
Yeah.
What's happening, guys? Welcome to another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. I am your humble star, Chael Sonnen, joined by Daniel Cormier. Daniel, what's happening, buddy?
You know what's happening, Chael? Is the show is over. Guys, for another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy, that's Chael Sonnen. I'm Daniel Cormier. Until next time, peace.